know your rights, which is a big one, which I wish I knew.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get it given to me.
Yeah.
So now I'm still learning my rights as an Indigenous woman too.
Yeah.
So that's just really hard.
Yeah.
But, the voice is one of the biggest things for young people, especially when transitioning, that they feel like that they cannot reach out for help.
We would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Voices in Action podcast with Create Foundation SA team. This podcast is called Voices in Action, Journey in Care.
We are excited to be releasing our first podcast series. We have episodes lined up to appeal to the out-of-home care sector, fostering change and advocating for a better future for young people in care. We hope this podcast is helpful for children and young people in the care system and inspires you that you are a valuable human being.
We acknowledge that the topics discussed can be potentially triggering, so we encourage you to take care of yourself. Check in with yourself at the end of each episode and seek support if needed. We've listed some support services in the show notes. Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I've got myself, Angela, here, and we've got Jessie.
Hello, everyone.
Jessie's with the Create team, and we've also got the amazing Emmarita. Hi, Emmarita.
Hi.
Emmarita is a young consultant with us, and we're going to be talking about transitioning to adulthood. Really a huge topic that we've got going on at the moment, and one of our big priorities with the Create. So before we get started with all the questions with Emmarita, do you want to introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are, your type of care that you were in, and what you're currently doing?
Hello, my name is Emmarita Brown. I am a young mum and an artist, and I've just started up as an entrepreneur this year. What was my placement like? So I was through foster care right up to the age of 16, then I transitioned to resi care.
When did you know about Create when you were younger? Do you want to talk a little bit about what Create has done so far? I know you've recently done the Speak Up program and some other amazing things. You want to talk about your time so far with Create?
I do remember attending a few, events in that through my childhood, through foster care, like through my foster family and that.
Yeah.
I don't remember much from back then, but from this year since I've just rejoined or became a consultant through you guys, it's good to reconnect and enjoy, meeting new people.
Yeah. Emmarita did it recently, a mural with the young people for a youth advisory group at Cheltenham Community Centre. It was just absolutely amazing to see you do that and lead the young people, do it all together, and amazing artists. So check out Emmarita. We'll pop her notes in the show notes for you to check out her work. Let's get started. So the first question we have for you, Emmarita, what was your experience like when you were transitioning out of the care system?
My experience was, first of all, was very emotional, being 18, leaving on your 18th birthday. It is a pretty big transition to leave from a family, especially if you've been in that family your whole life, then moving from family to resi care through group homes and then only having a year with them to now, transitioning on your own from 18. So it's a very emotional and frightful thing to do, especially from a young age when most kids your age at 18 are still living at home with their parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very emotional and scary, and I felt quite alone, to begin with. Setting up a house on your 18th birthday, not very fun.
It's huge.
But and then later on finding out you're pregnant and then being on the role of becoming a young mum. So there was a lot when I left, but I think it was very, very emotional and scary to feel that you had nobody else.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So did that happen in the same year?
Yeah, so
wow.
I left on my 18th birthday at the end of 2017. So my birthday is like right at the end of December, the 29th. So I'm right at the end. So I left just before the new year. And so on my 18th birthday, I was literally, unpacking my furniture package and building my furniture on my birthday. And then a few weeks later finding out I was pregnant and then, not having anyone around. So it was very emotional and feeling like I didn't have that much support to begin with. So it is everyone has, a different story from when they live and that.
Yeah.
But for me back then, because I was like 17, I'm 24 now,
Wow.
it's so far away, so long ago. A lot has changed from then to now. But back then for me it was, a struggle.
Yeah.
you know, I made do, and here I am today as an entrepreneur of my own business.
Yeah.
So,
Go you. But I could
Yeah,
imagine how emotionally huge it would be going through so much changes at 18 and scary.
Even from
and
just the age of 16, like from just being brought up from a family from 18 months of age, that's supposed to be to like 18, and then the system telling you that's not your family. Like that's a huge, you know, it's a huge thing to take on. And to know like, well, what my whole life's meant to be a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your identity. It's like a big, huge part of your identity.
But
and then
you know, family's what you make it, and my foster family is my family. I don't introduce them as my foster family. I just introduce them as my family, and I've reconnected them a few years ago after when I had babies, 18. So and then they're part of my daughter's life because, you know, they've always been my family, you know, because they're the ones who've raised me, who've taught me to speak, taught me to walk, made me go to school, you know, that's my family. But you know, there's always going to be someone above them, especially if the title is foster care and things like that. But you know, so it was a very big struggle. And then to be into a group home when you've just been with something that's so secure like a family, to not knowing what you're doing, where you're going. You know,
so how many other people did you live with in the group home?
In the group home, it was only just me and my younger sister. So she was also a foster carer through, foster's child.
This sister,
Sorry, foster child too. So there was her, myself, and 2 other young people in this group home. It was very, very strange, very new, meeting new people as workers, which they called as passive carers. So they weren't like carers that sort of stayed. They were like, they did handovers, and so it was all new names. Will, you know, new labels will kind of comprehend at the time, but
very different environment to being in a foster family.
Very, very. So that's why I say I'm very lucky, or some of the few to actual, you know, be able to have a family that treated me like their own, you know, and be part of their family. That's pretty big. And knowing that I'm not their own, you know, by blood, but they treated me like I was one of them. And I know that they're my foster parents, but I call them mum and dad. I have since the day I spoke.
But it's listening to what is important to you, that individual young person. Like we have to really start listening about what is and what do we need to keep important, connected for their own well-being.
I'm from up in Darwin as well. I was working career up there, and the young people up there saying the same things, like family is more than just blood. It's the people that love you.
It's people who's in your life 24/7. The people that you choose to have around you is family. You know, but the system when we went to Resi Care, it was like we weren't allowed to talk to them. I didn't know why, and I was like, but that's my family. They're like, no, that's not your family.
So how old were you when they started that transition from care process?
At the time, they didn't really have support. They were sort of just asking questions about what they can do for the next future and onwards. So they didn't really have that kind of support back then for me. They were like asking me for support. And I'm like, hang on, you guys should already have this sort of stuff. Considering we've just been moved from a secured, you know, placement to now straight into a group home. That's a really big change in, you know, a few hours or so. So it was a very big struggle.
That's full on.
But there wasn't much support. But I wish there was. There might be more support now, but back then I wish there was more support.
What would you have wanted? What extra support would you think would have been like ideal to have between that 16 to 18 and even onwards, like?
So the kind of support that I kind of wanted was kind of to be not left in the dark.
Yes.
To be able to understand what's going on. Because it was all just thrown at us. I think it would have been more of not feeling alone, like kind of support saying that, you know, we hear you, we understand you, you know, be able to reconnect. I think those kind of support.
Emotional, relationship support,
From by the end of 16, we really knew how the placement worked. Like, you know, because like MPRs, we stand for missing person report because there was curfews and stuff. So that was kind of like a learning thing to be home on time, or there's consequences and things
all
like
these
that,
different rules that you didn't have when you were in a foster family.
I already had like, not so much as a curfew, but we did have rules in my foster family. We did have rules. You know, just like every other family. You have rules. You got to learn to be independent. You got to, you know, help with chores and things like that. I think it was a really big step, as though when you're in a family, you're sort of around that environment where you can slowly build that skill up. Then when you're in a group home, it's sort of just you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Rather than when you're in a family, you already have you have parents, or you know, your workers there that are slowly telling you like, okay, well, this is how you work the washing machine, this is how you do this. Like, I think because from my age gap, I was 16, I already knew, you know, she was helping mum around.
Yeah, she gave you some skills already. Yeah.
And because I was taking myself from school and back, like catching public transport and things like that, I already was at that
independent kind of
level.
semi-independence. Yeah.
But it got to where it was more of a, where the police got involved. Like if you weren't home on time, I'm like, I'm only down the road.
And that's scary.
But that was like kind of protocol. And there were a couple of times where I did wag and I was dawdling my way back to place.
Your kids as well. Like we forget sometimes we're teenagers. Like back then we're like, kids are kids sometimes. It
was a lot. So by the end of 16, because we only left around May, we got moved around May, like middle of 2016. So I only had maybe a few months until the end. So by the time I moved 4 times within that month. So I moved. My sister and I left the foster family and we went straight to a group home. And then maybe I think it was only we were there for 3 weeks and then they separated us because of our age. Yeah. So I was 16, my sister was 13. So
there's that age gap.
Yeah. So we had different social workers rather than when we were with the foster family, we had the one social worker.
Okay.
And we used
that was a good practice. Yeah, to have that. Yeah.
But that was kind of different because when we were with the one social worker, we could have had like our own little chat. We were like, okay, what do we want to do together? You know, like we were like 2 peas in a pod. Yeah. But when we left, we were kind of like, what do we do? Like, because we like to always know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it was a bit scary because I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, why do you get to do that? I have to do all this hard stuff. So it was different. So with different social work, I kind of felt like I was excluded. As though when we were together, we were doing things together, but still like independent, but we were like on the same page. Yeah. You know, like we felt comfortable when we had the one social worker, then when we had 2, we kind of felt like that we're kind of left in the dark, independent, like just like in a box, and that kind of like broke me and it kind of broke her at the time because we were like really close. Yeah. And then they kind of separated us, which, you know, kind of broke that string in between us. But so independence was really hard on her because she was only 13. You know, at the age of 13, most kids are, you know, they don't even, they're only just starting.
About
that. Just, your brain can't comprehend as much as like a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old.
They're just starting.
And she's looking up to you. She'll be looking up to you and you're her safe. Yeah.
Yeah, because she only just started school, high school that year too. Wow. So she was just, you know, starting that independence, you know, going to school and stuff. And it was really hard, a lot harder on her than me, as I was really at that level from 16. I still had, you know, more improvements, and I'm still learning now. Yeah. You know, like I'm not perfect.
We learn every day.
You know. Yeah. But for her, she had it hard.
Yeah. Did you feel like that was an extra pressure on you then? Yeah. Looking after obviously yourself, but then also,
because there was no one. It didn't feel like there was anyone there for her. Yeah. As when we were the family, we had, you know, our sisters there, and we had our, you know, our cousins, our nephews, and that were there with us. So we were all together in like a family. We did everything together with our nephews and nieces. Like we all grew up together. But then when we went to a group home, it was kind of different. Like we were just locked. We didn't have that.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't have that sort of, you know, feeling where we felt like we can talk to anyone, we can, you know, like hang out with people. We were sort
the
of
connection, that love and that connection, that family.
We just lost it all, and that's very, like that's where abandonment issues and that, you know, start to occur because you know you're with a family where you do a lot of activities and you're fun and, you know, you eat together and you do all that rather than here. That it was just the 2 of us and we just felt alone.
Yeah, it would have been a bigger shock for your system.
Yeah, even though the workers, they were nice and that, but it just wasn't the same from when you're with a family to a group home.
What tips actually would you give to a young person that's listening today or to work about like helping them to transition out of care, like for a young person particularly?
Because I didn't have a voice back then.
Yeah,
I think like if you want support and they're not willing to give, ask. Yeah. And if they can't help you then find somebody who can. Even though it's going to be hard, you just keep trying. And for me, it was really hard. I didn't have a voice because I didn't know what was going on. But I was kind of left in the dark. So then it was a lot to process, you know, moving from family to group home. That was a traumatic, you know, that's a big gap. Yeah. So my brain was going all over the place. So I didn't really have that voice to be able, I was trying to process what was going on first. Yeah. So I didn't really have the voice to ask questions about, okay, well, why can't I, you know, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, like your rights, your rights. Yeah.
Even though they read it all out, like you can read it to me, but it's not going to process because I'm still trying to process what happened. Yeah. I'm still trying to process the gap from moving from a family to a group home.
So do you think it would have helped you more to have the whole process explained a bit better and be involved in that process?
Rather than left in the dark. And because there was, I don't remember much, but there was a lot going on in that time frame. Like there was a lot with DCP, there was apparently a case going on. There was so much that was going on around us that they didn't really tell us the full thing. And
and at age 16, you're able to comprehend at an age appropriate level. Like I think that it always has to be age appropriate. But we always hear this from all the young people that no one's really explaining what is happening to us. So then we create stories in our mind and we don't understand. We get insecure and
that's right. Because they don't think about they always think about themselves. And I know there's always good people out there. Like the workers were all good, but there's always someone above them that would tell them that they can't say certain things.
It was policies and legislation.
It's even when you get your files from DCP. So I got my files from DCP and they're scribbling out. I know names, that's fine.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff I want to know. Like that's me. And they're gonna, I know there's part of protocols like safety and things, especially with names and certain things that have happened.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to sort of put bits and pieces together to understand, what happened back then. Because when you're young, you're very vulnerable. You're very vulnerable from age to about 12.
Yeah.
Right, you're very vulnerable. You don't really get choices, even though you can have opportunities and things like that. But you kind of have your choices ripped away, especially if you're in the system.
Yeah,
like we have everything stripped away from us. Most of us will have identity stripped away.
Yeah,
we'll have our voice stripped away.
Yeah,
we'll have like basically ourselves as an individual stripped away from us.
And that's why it's so for you to talk to have a voice, like come to create or go to the Office of Guardianship, like go and learn how to not learn, but like raising your voice, or like having a voice and learning to have that is so important.
Yeah, and important being told and shown the places to go to.
Support, yes.
I imagine sometimes you know that you need support, but you don't know where to go to for it.
So the tip that I would give for young people when transitioning is reach out. Yeah. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Like for me, it's really hard now. Now I'm really easy peasy asking for help, even though there's sometimes, being a mum, I'm like, should I or not, or should? But I still, comprehend and say, look, if I need it. So I ask. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to use your voice, even if you have people that are going to try and take it from you. Yeah. Your voice is your own. Yeah. Use it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good.
It's really hard when you have someone above you that's going to try and take it from you. Just don't let them. Know your rights, which is a big one, which I wish I knew. Yeah. And I didn't. Yeah. Because I didn't get it given to me. Yeah. So I'm still learning my rights as an Indigenous woman too. Yeah. So that's just really hard. Yeah. But, the voice is one of the biggest things for young people, especially when transitioning, that they feel like that they cannot reach out for help. Yeah. Especially if you're living on your own. It is really hard from young age, from 18. When there's a lot of 18-year-olds that are probably living at home still. Yeah. And they all have parents. Like, I'm not saying everyone's perfect. Like, everyone has issues in their family or wherever they are. You've always got issues. Yeah. But for people in care, it's a bigger thing.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip. So, the recap for everyone listening, your voice matters and your experience matters. And, we hope that you have people in your life that listen to that and support you in that.
Yeah, and Create is here up until your 26th birthday. If you want to engage with our services, we'd love to help you have a voice and feel more confident and having a voice.
Yeah. I just want to quickly ask, because I don't think we covered it at the start. Where are you placed, or where are you living at the moment? Like, did you transition out of that resi care home to independent living, or
so I transitioned out of resi care into a junction housing first, and then I went from junction to a housing trust house because obviously I was pregnant, and then by the end of 18 I had babies, so I moved twice within that year, and then I had to move again for, like, part of it was for safety measures for myself, from being through DV, so sorry, that's a warning content there. But that was my safety measure from moving from junction housing to housing trust housing, like a 1 bedroom, and then moving upwards when baby was a little bit older and I was a little bit, okay, I don't want to live anymore because it's not safe. Yeah. But that's the thing with housing. They just, you need a house, they just place you wherever.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't think about the safety and that. So for me, I was living next to, in a really bad neighbourhood. Yeah. I had my house broken into twice, and I was like, no way, this is not a place to raise a child. No. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look at private rental. So then when I got my P's, I went up to the country and lived with my sister for a bit, and then I got my foster sister, but my sister. Yeah. And then I got my private rental out there for 4 years, and then I moved back down to Adelaide this year, and now I've moved back with family. So
awesome. So do you feel like you had support in that process? Like, was that a bit different to then moving from foster care to resi care, or is that
For
again
me,
on your own?
I'm a little bit different than most young people, only because I was through DV, through domestic violence, in a situationship before I left. So I was what we called as flagged. So basically, I had a flag on my name because I'm Indigenous. I had a flag on my name because I was also experienced DV.
Okay.
So when I left, I did all the right things for myself because I was like, no, this is not healthy. I already knew the signs. I was just trying to find a way to get out of it.
Yeah.
So this is sort of my story of how my transition is a little bit different than most.
Yeah.
Because I had that extra thing that was weighing me down, which was experiencing DV, which a lot of us we do experience DV.
Yeah, we do. It's
a
very
really
common.
thing.
Yeah.
But for me, I had to have a safety plan.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm pregnant. Then I had to have another safety plan. But I was still flagged, not only because I was DV, but because I've left the system, I'm an system person, like system child or GOM child, whatever you want to call it. You're Indigenous and you're a woman.
Yeah.
We are flagged always.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't matter. Like, even if we're not in the system, if you're Indigenous and you're a woman, you're flagged.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really big thing. And people don't want to acknowledge it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not fair on us who want to try and just live a life and be,
and you're
be successful for ourselves, not trying to prove anything to other people.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like we kind of have to work a little bit harder as an Indigenous woman or any cultural background.
Yeah.
We have to work a little bit harder just to try and fit in. And that's not the way it should be.
Yeah, no.
But for me, I was flagged. So I had an extra thing. So I had CFAN on my back, which were good. They were good. And I was like, I'm not stupid,
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a safety measure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was part of my safety plan. And no, I didn't really have much support.
Yeah.
I'm a new mum.
Yeah.
I was a new mum at 18. I wasn't.
Whole new
I
thing
wasn't
to
even.
navigate.
I just left the system, and then I'm pregnant, and I've just gotten out safely with DV safely. But pregnant.
Yeah.
And then I just had this, this thing. I just had a lot going on to try and, I didn't even think.
But you were, sound like you were making really good, healthy choices, like moving away and putting those protective barriers. You'd be really proud of yourself, Emmarita.
Like, look at you now.
I've worked
successful businesswoman,
really hard.
Mum.
Yeah.
That's so good. Awesome. So on that, can you share any tips then for caseworkers or carers or just people who are supporting those in care? Any tips for them, in their support of young people when they transition?
I think maybe a lot of especially if you're transitioning, that's a really big word, transitioning. That's a really big thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you're moving from, environment where you're with other people to now moving to an environment when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing at a young age.
Yeah.
It's huge.
So kind of support would be, workshops or things like that you can work out, how to pay your rent or where to go to, if you get stuck or whatever.
Your workers should be helping them
maybe
around
with
that.
getting a job or your license, because the license
those
is really,
practical.
those simple things, which is a really big thing. I didn't get my license till I was 19.
Yeah.
But I had to do that myself, even though my social worker paid for 10 lessons, but then I had to kind of pay by myself. That's the thing. I think licenses not probably be the biggest thing first. We get your license or what you can do, where you can go to get your license, a lot easier for young people.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people won't have anyone with them to do their hours.
Yes.
That's a
Huge
big
barrier.
thing. So maybe a bit of support while they're in, from 16 to 18. Help them get their learners.
Okay.
But maybe a program would be helpful for young, if the carers can't take them to do their hours, maybe a program for the young people to go out and do their hours. So number one thing would probably be getting their license before they leave, so that as well as also teach them, public transport and, how to read the times, how to calculate the times when, when you need to catch.
Even I get confused with public transport. Expecting an 18-year-old
I think that's the main thing would be getting your license first, getting your L's, and then helping them find how they can get a car, give them a list of things. Oh, this is what you can do if you want to get a car, if there's financial places, if there's loans and things like that.
Yes.
But before that, also get a job in between there, help them do a resume, help them try and do some volunteer work or something just to gain some skills. If they're because that's how I started with volunteer first, just to gain skills, and then I picked up just a small job sausage sizzle at Bunnings. Something simple.
Iconic.
Just to sort of gain some skills. But I think that's another thing for support would be getting your license, working on towards getting a job, so then they've actually got something financially after other than Centrelink.
Yeah.
But also to teach them a little bit of independent, like this is what you can do. Like independently driving is a big thing of independent, and then working is a big thing independently, you know, getting yourself from home to work and then from home. So that's kind of a big thing.
It's
and
life
then,
skills stuff.
Yeah, just basic stuff.
We're going to tie up in a minute. But was there anything else you want to like share about any continuing challenges that you had after leaving care into adulthood that you wanted to highlight to anyone listening, or before we wrap up today?
For me, I think it's because I'm a young mum. So
Yes.
for me, I just have everything to do with the parenting section.
Yes.
But there's also studies too. Like for me, like learning to work and gaining skills from like TAFE, because I just did TAFE.
Yeah.
And I did TAFE all the way through.
Yeah.
And now I'm an entrepreneur. You know, now I've got my own business.
Yeah.
So, and that's from TAFE. So now I'm also like, I think it's just looking at gaining skills and things like that. It was a bit of a challenge to try and figure out, okay, well, I've got a child now. I need to also figure out ways other than Centrelink to get some regular income or gain some skills to build my resume up. So that's what I did, was TAFE.
Yeah.
And that's why I think before they leave, to do that beforehand than after they're leaving. As for me, I had to do all that, and it was a big challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I was being a mum and I was studying at home.
Yeah.
And then obviously I was doing my license. So I was doing 3 big major things.
Yes.
Yeah. And then once I got my license, it all fall together.
Yeah.
With the country. Then I went to renting hire through private rental.
Yeah.
And then I was also continuing with studying until the age, because my daughter's only just started reception this year. So all that time I was a stay-at-home mum studying, and then I was looking at art because I was like, well, you know, work towards my business. And I was looking at things like that. But I reckon the resume thing is a really big thing first, because that's something that they're most likely want to do, or even just looking at curricular activities afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, but not be left in the dark.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Thank you so much, Emmarita, for coming today.
For
it's been so
me.
good just hearing more about your story, and I'd love just seeing you grow as a young consultant, as a young mum.
I'm really excited. Yeah,
yes. I'm sad that we didn't connect earlier. Like, you're now 24, 25.
Happens for a reason.
That's right.
It all comes
and
together when
there's
it
already been so many opportunities having you a part of Create. So yeah, thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the episode of the Voices in Action Journey in Care podcast. Remember, we have support services listed in the show notes. If you liked this episode, spread the word and leave us a review. Thank you.